Sometime in the bruised quiet of early morning, Maya Hartwell stood beneath the towering tangle of elm and oak trees, the entire town watching as if she were stepping into madness rather than a home. The treehouse rose 30 feet above her head, a weathered skeleton of hand-carved angles and shadowed windows that glared like suspicious eyes. The suspension bridge swayed in the wind, creaking as if whispering warnings, but Maya tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. 7-year-old Iris looked up with curls tangled and hope shining in eyes that had seen too much sadness for someone so small. And Maya, once a celebrated architect with glossy magazine homes, heated floors, and a life people envied, now felt ancient, hollowed out by betrayal. The divorce had gutted her. Her husband's affair, the ruthless lawyer, the job she was quietly pushed out of, the savings drained until she was left with scraps. It all ended with her sleeping on floors, working odd cash jobs, and clinging to Iris through nights punctured by gunshots outside the cheap apartment. So when she found the listing, unique structure, needs vision, something reckless and desperate inside her said yes. Now standing before the so-called crazy treehouse, the one locals whispered was cursed. Maya felt judgment rolling off them like cold fog. But her architect's eye saw what they didn't. The joinery, the load-bearing brilliance, the structure breathing with intention. Whoever built this wasn't eccentric, they were gifted. And as she stepped onto the bridge with Iris pressed close, Maya felt something ancient shift in the air, as if this place had been waiting for her to rebuild more than a life. It had been waiting for her to uncover the secret buried in its bones. The first night inside the treehouse felt like stepping into another lifetime, one stitched together by creaks, wind, and echoes of stories long abandoned. After grilled cheese eaten on the floor and Iris tucked beneath blankets in the loft, Maya walked the perimeter with slow, assessing steps, her architect's instincts alert. The construction was remarkable. Hand-hewn beams, precise interlocking joints, carved railings whispering of craftsmanship long lost. But beneath the beauty lingered oddities, walls that didn't align with the exterior footprint, hollow echoes behind planks, a floorboard that rose just a fraction too high. These weren't mistakes. These were choices, intentional ones, and something inside those choices felt alive. Long after Iris slept, Maya traced the anomalies with her fingertips, listening to the wind rattling through rafters, listening for footsteps she prayed were only in her imagination. The treehouse breathed around her, shifting like a living organism. She sketched measurements in her notebook, mapping spaces that shouldn't exist. But exhaustion pulled her toward the fire, where she wrapped herself in a blanket, staring into flames and weighing the mountain of tasks ahead, finding work, winterizing the structure, enrolling Iris in school, surviving the judgment of a town convinced she was broken beyond repair. Yet in this suspended room of wood and shadows, she found the faintest flicker of hope. The life she'd left behind, the perfect home, the career she'd once lived for, felt like a polished lie. This treehouse, unstable and mysterious as it was, felt more honest than anything she'd touched in years. And when the morning sunlight streamed through the windows, painting gold across the worn floors, Maya felt, for the first time since the divorce, that she might actually rise again. Days unfolded with the rhythm of survival. Cold mornings, instant coffee brewed over a fire, cereal without milk, Iris's slow walk across the bridge to the waiting school bus while the townsfolk whispered. Maya endured the stares, the tight smiles, the mothers who clutched their children closer, wondering how a woman could drag a child into a treehouse as if it were neglect instead of necessity. But with every evening, as the sun bled oranges and purples behind the mountains, Maya returned to those architectural inconsistencies. The hollow wall, the raised floorboard, the narrow strip where measurements refused to make sense. And one stormy night, while thunder rattled the beams, she pressed her hand to the floor by the fireplace and felt it dip. Her breath hitched. She wedged her fingers beneath the board and pried it up. Beneath darkness, a cavity hidden deliberately. Her heart pounded as she reached into the cold void and brushed against metal. She pulled out a rusted tin box, its hinges stiff with age. Inside lay letters yellowed by time, photographs faded to ghosts, and a journal embossed with a name that sent a tremor through her chest. Julian Thorne, a legend whispered in architecture schools, a visionary who vanished in the 1980s, a ghost whose brilliance had shaped entire design movements. Maya opened the journal carefully, pages brittle with age. His handwriting flowed with passion, frustration, and a confession of abandoning the commercial world to build something pure. This treehouse was no recluse's folly. It was the heart of his greatest work. As lightning cracked across the sky, Maya felt a connection stretching across decades, as if Julian's lost genius had been waiting for her hands to find it, waiting for someone broken enough to understand the beauty of rebuilding. The discovery consumed her. Every night after Iris slept, Maya descended into the treehouse's hidden world, searching the walls, tapping for seams, studying Julian's journal until her eyes ached. When the storm finally fractured a section of siding near the bookshelf, revealing damp wood and a suspicious gap, she pushed the shelf aside and found it. A perfectly concealed door, grain matched so flawlessly it disappeared into the wall. Her pulse stuttered as she pried it open. The hinges groaned like a secret waking from a 40-year sleep. Inside lay a room untouched by time. Dust floated in thin shafts of light. Shelves sagged under the weight of rolled blueprints. Journals lined the walls. A drafting table sat frozen mid-idea, pencil still resting where Julian must have set it down the day he vanished. Maya unrolled the first blueprint and felt her breath leave her. These weren't eccentric sketches, they were revolutionary housing designs. Structures that blended with land, captured sunlight, harvested water, powered themselves through wind and microsystems. Homes that could be built affordably, beautifully anywhere. And there were dozens. Over 73 complete designs, each adapted for a different climate or terrain. This wasn't a forgotten relic. This was a blueprint for reshaping the world. Iris wandered in one morning, eyes wide as she whispered, "It's like treasure." And it was, but magic attracts shadows. Talking with Dorothy, the older woman who once worked alongside Julian, Maya learned the truth. Cascade Holdings had pressured him decades ago, trying to force him to surrender this work. And when he refused, he disappeared. Now they were back, watching Maya, threatening her daughter. Maya closed the hidden room door with trembling hands. She had discovered Julian's legacy, but she had also stepped into his unfinished war. The knock came like a warning shot, sharp, impatient, echoing beneath the branches. A man in a tailored coat stood on Dorothy's porch, a smile carved from ice. He introduced himself as Richard Vance from Cascade Holdings, though his tone suggested he assumed she already knew. They wanted the land, they wanted the treehouse. They wanted every scrap of Julian Thorne's work, and they would obtain it by purchase, pressure, or legal manipulation. His implication was clear: sell, or we will make you regret staying. Maya felt fear coil cold in her spine, but a fiercer instinct rose with it. She had been erased before, by her ex-husband's family, by a biased court, by a world eager to reduce her to nothing. But not again. Not when she held the designs that could change lives. She reached out to anyone who might help: nonprofits, scholars, journalists. And one voice answered like a lifeline: Professor Elena Vasquez, a respected expert in sustainable architecture. When Maya showed her a selection of blueprints and one journal, Elena trembled, recognizing Julian's handwriting instantly. "This isn't just historical," she whispered. "This is world-shifting." With Elena's guidance, Maya connected with attorney Sarah Chen, a sharp, relentless defender who took the case pro bono, calling it cultural preservation. Sarah warned her Cascade would strike fast and viciously, and they did, threatening custody battles, claiming ownership of Julian's work, filing motions to seize the treehouse. But contradiction only fueled Maya's resolve. She had survived the wreckage of her old life. She would survive this. And as she stood on the platform outside the treehouse watching another storm gather, Maya realized she wasn't just protecting blueprints. She was protecting a man's lost vision, her daughter's future, and the belief that beauty and dignity belong to everyone. When the story went public, thanks to a single photo Maya posted of the hidden room, the world ignited. Overnight, the treehouse transformed from a local curiosity into national news. Reporters crowded the dirt road. Cameras pointed upward like hungry eyes. News anchors called her the single mother who uncovered a forgotten architectural revolution. And for the first time, the town that once mocked her began to shift. Neighbors approached with softened expressions. Mothers who once judged her arrived with apologies wrapped in baskets of muffins. Children who teased Iris now asked for tour. Maya felt the change like a thaw after a long winter, but with attention came danger. Cascade Holdings launched a brutal campaign claiming Julian's work was theirs through old contracts, demanding immediate access to the property. Sarah fought back, in court dismantling their claims one by one. And Maya fought in her own way, building prototypes from Julian's designs, proving their brilliance wasn't theoretical. Small structures rose at the edge of Riverside Bend, crafted from renewable materials, powered by sun and water, homes that cost a fraction of modern construction. Tom Henderson, the tough local contractor who once doubted her, returned offering help with crews and materials. Volunteers lined up, fascinated by designs decades ahead of their time. As the prototypes took shape, Maya felt herself transform. The woman who arrived with her spirit in ruins now led teams, taught techniques, answered questions with confidence she thought she'd lost forever. But Cascade wasn't finished. They returned with larger offers, veiled threats, even a multi-million-dollar proposal to make everything disappear. Maya refused, because this wasn't about wealth or escape. It was about justice. It was about proving that a forgotten architect and a broken mother could change what the world believed was possible. The climax arrived beneath blinding stage lights in Portland, where Maya stood before hundreds of architects, planners, activists, and skeptics. She wasn't here to reclaim a career. She was here to tell the truth. Her voice trembled at first, but as she spoke of Julian's brilliance, of his refusal to let corporate greed consume his life's work, of the designs he hid in the branches to protect the future, the room leaned in. And when she confessed her own fall, how she had lost her home, her job, her identity, and wound up fighting to protect her daughter in a treehouse everyone called insane, something in the crowd shifted. She wasn't a cautionary tale. She was a spark. She unveiled the prototypes, shared cost analyses, detailing how Julian's methods could reshape affordable housing worldwide. The applause rose like a wave, thunderous and affirming. In the hours that followed, partnerships blossomed. Nonprofits offering funding, developers requesting collaborations, filmmakers wanting her story, students thanking her for proving that architecture could still be human. Cascade made one final attempt, requesting a private meeting to offer her $2 million for the property and all rights to Julian's work. Maya sat across from Richard Vance, Sarah beside her, and said simply, "No," not with anger, with certainty. Because the work wasn't meant to be owned. It was meant to be shared. And in that moment, Richard finally understood he had lost, not to wealth, but to conviction. The lawsuit crumbled weeks later. The treehouse remained hers. And for the first time, Maya let herself breathe like someone who had climbed out of darkness carrying light in her hands. Seasons shifted, and Riverside Bend bloomed with quiet transformation. The first community built from Julian's designs opened its doors. Homes born from sunlight, reclaimed timber, and the belief that dignity was not a luxury. Families moved into houses they never dreamed they could afford. Children played along wooden walkways, veterans rested on porches warmed by morning light, and single mothers planted gardens outside homes built with their own hands. Maya stood with Iris beneath the towering trees, watching a world she'd helped shape take root. The treehouse became a sanctuary of learning, a place where architects studied Julian's techniques, where community members came to restore hope with sawdust on their sleeves. Every blueprint Julian left behind grew into something living, into proof that innovation didn't belong to corporations but to humanity. And Maya, once mocked for climbing into the branches, now stood as the woman who had resurrected a lost visionary and changed the lives of thousands. In the golden quiet of evening, she whispered into the wind, "Julian, we did it." If this story has moved you, if it made you believe broken things can rise stronger or that forgotten dreams can still find their way back into the light, make sure to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so more stories like this can reach the people who need them most. And before you go, tell me, where are you listening from, and what time is it right now as this story ends for you?